Hi, everyone, and welcome to Unsupervised Consequences, day number 37. And today we're talking about peer pressure. This is a chronicle of how I went from over 450 pounds to a very modest, as of today, 275.8 pounds. Um, and this is kind of all the things I've learned, things that I've experienced, roadblocks I've hit, how I overcame them, and all that kind of stuff. So today we're talking about peer pressure, and the quote that I started this post off was attributed to Dennis WOLFBERG, and he said, "There's one advantage to being 102: there's no peer pressure." So, with regards to that, I think one of the hardest parts in our existence as human beings, which I am a human being, you can't prove otherwise. Um, is the fact that peer pressure is the most intense, I think, at our most vulnerable. Especially youth experience peer pressure right when they're starting to hit puberty, and it starts to just get out of control really, really badly at that stage in their life. And I think that I'll be honest with you, I don't recall a time where I've ever seen peer pressure used for good. And that doesn't mean it is bad. Um, but I think that's a huge thing that we have to keep in mind. Um, Whenever we're doing things, a lot of people try to impose their views, opinions, beliefs, principles on us. Now, no, don't get me wrong. That's not always a bad thing. And a lot of the times it's a good thing, and it might protect us from things we may not realize are happening. But that is something that's very subjective, right? And when peer pressure happens, a lot of the times, and just in going through just different facts and understandings of how peer pressure works and everything, was that I found that a lot of the time it was based on those incremental things where, we've talked about before the idea of starting that positive trend, even with our verbiage, um, with our attitude, with how we approach things. When we get on that positive momentum, it makes things easier to go well. When we're dealing with other people, when we get them into a positive momentum in how they respond, then it kind of makes it habitual, and it feels more natural to respond. I know a lot of the times we have an inclination to say no. Um, and I think that is a overcorrecting of our past, because of our past experiences. Because whenever people have asked things of us, we said yes, and it worked out poorly. It's happened to me many a times. But one of the key components, or ways to understand that, was that when we say yes to someone else, and I heard this recently, and I've been pondering it quite a bit, was when we say yes to someone else, we may be saying no to ourselves, which I don't necessarily think is 100% accurate per se, but I definitely think it's one of those things that we have to be careful, because it can so easily happen where we don't really perceive exactly, "Hey, what's happening, Serge? I'm doing good, buddy. I hope you're doing well too. I weighed in today at 275.8, which is the lowest so far. So something's happening." But yeah, so I digress. The idea of negating our own principles, values, effort, energy, resources on behalf of someone else is ludicrous. Now, should we, can we, is it appropriate for us to share? Of course, of course. That creates community, that creates friendships. Um, but that's, I think in this day and age, it's oftentimes abused. And that's where we have to be careful, because listen, me doing this show, in a way, is peer pressure to myself. And I hope nobody watching feels pressured, but the idea is that I'm an idiot. If I can do this, anyone can do it. And that's really what I'm trying to expose, or promote, or inspire, is that um, we're not on our own. And even if we're doing things by ourselves, we're still not on our own. Other people are going through the same experiences. Other people are feeling the same um, effects of their decisions. Other people are right there with us, feeling the highs, the lows, the roadblocks, and even the positive feelings when we overcome them. So knowing full well that we're not, as much as we may feel by ourselves, we aren't alone in our journeys. I think that is uh, encouraging. And I'll tell you this much: when I did my first series, which was "Where Did the Rest of Me Go," um, I went through kind of the mindset that I had to maintain, then the food that I ate, and the last was how I've been using fasting. Like today, I'm on I've completed 3 days. I'm at 3.5 day. Yeah, as of 10 o'clock, I'm at, let's see, that would be 72, 84 hours so far of fasting. I feel okay. Um, I hit my lowest weight so far, and also too, I've already scheduled out my entire weekend, so I'm like, I'm good to go. Everything's fine. Positive things. That's a people say restrictive existence. Maybe it's possible, and it's also very fortunate because a lot of the times we can't schedule things. We have too much on the go, too many bells and whistles, too many cogs and moving parts in our machine that is life. So we have to make adjustments on the fly. Happens. This is one of the things that for myself has been key. And I'll tell you this much: I have yet to meet a person that I've told them that I've been fasting long term, which eventually I want to get away from it. I am okay with intermittent fasting, which is having a smaller window of eating time, or even OMAD, which is one meal a day. Those have been very, very enjoyable experiences for me. The long term fasting is proving to myself that I'm able to do it on one side. Also, too, it helps me reorganize myself because one of the key components of doing this has been I really do, Serge. I honestly, I'm so happy when people are like, "You're looking great," and I'm like, "Thanks, I feel so pretty," because that's one of the things is that uh, okay, this is going to sound really pompous, but I'm a good, decent looking guy. I don't think I'm an ugly guy. But because of my height and my stature and how broad I am and everything, I'm an intimidating guy. And I know there are people who have been like, "Oh, I would never talk to you in public," and I was like, "Oh, okay." And it was worse because I was also very fat, and that always became an issue for me internally, but I made sure not to show it. That was my own battle. And now that I've lost a lot of weight, a lot of people, my closest friends, have also been like, "Hey, man, you're looking great. You're still ugly, but you're looking great." And I'm like, "Thanks. That's really nice of you." But it does feel good. It makes me feel nice. You're far from intimidating. You're a liar, right? You're a liar, okay? But that's one of the things, right? It's one of those things where I'm very self conscious about it because I've had to put my game face on and to stop people from doing things, and that's not a pleasant experience, and I don't like being that person. But all that being said, with the fasting and everything, I have yet to meet someone who's not been like, "Oh, you're crazy. You're definitely going to hurt yourself." But that's so the difference is you're tall and you don't feel it because we're both fairly tall. However, at my height and also my size, mm, normal size people are like, "This guy's crazy. He's going to eat me." Because let's be honest, I probably could, but not anymore. But at some point, no, that's okay. Um, but realistically, it was one of those things where people actively will come out to me and been like, "Oh, you're crazy. What you're doing? You're being unreasonable. You're going to hurt yourself, and all these things." Okay, sure, I understand that. I understand that perspective, and one of the key components to fasting, and this is something I talked about in my previous series, was that if you start to feel faint or lightheaded, you have gone too far. You immediately need to sit down, have something to eat. It's no questions asked, right? Because there are health issues with regards to that. You could fall, you could hurt yourself, you could also do damage to your organs if you go too far. I am in a situation where I still have like 60 pounds of fat on me and I want it out. It's getting an eviction notice. I'm telling it to shove off, right? My height and speed scares me. Absolutely. See that, and that's one of those things where people don't realize, right? And um, now, I one of the funniest experience, and I joke about this on stage, is the how people will come up and be like, "Oh, hi, how are you?" And I'm like, the audacity of people coming to talk to me, absolutely disgusting. How dare they, you know? But I digress. So when it comes to how people perceive us, it can be a very mm, difficult thing. And one of the things that I do, especially with comedy and when I'm performing, is that I accept criticism and compliments exactly the same way. And a lot of the times, comments do not require a response. So whenever people say something, I just go, "Oh, thank you," and that's it. And the reason I do that is because people's experiences are not the same. And when we try to see things from another person's perspective, it's very valuable in understanding their issue. It is also something that most people do not bother with. So, knowing full well that other people may not be mm, seeing your experience for the same way you're seeing your experience will motivate them to push and encourage in a way that may not be to your benefit, but more so to others. And that's one of the things to protect yourself. When it comes to the idea of peer pressure, it's extremely difficult to be an island and not talk amongst friends, family, coworkers, peers, whatever they are. But a lot of the times, those responses can hurt and jade our perspective. And that's one of the hard things is that peer pressure is definitely something that we need to overcome, not only for our own benefit, but for our own mental health. So having people with certain opinions who may come across as negative, we don't have to necessarily embrace them. We can just log them, note, "Oh, thank you for your concern. It's very appreciated. I will definitely keep that in mind. Thank you." That's it. There's no need to go further than that. And that's protecting for ourselves. And at the same time, like I try and say to people, is that, hey, if you're okay, I'm okay for you. And I've had friends who have gone into relationships and things that, hey, if you're happy, I'm happy for you. I think a lot of people are stupid, but I'm an idiot. What do I know? Mine. So that is where I'm going to leave things for today. Is that while peer pressure is the bane of every adolescent's existence, it's not always with bad intent, but it's definitely something that we need to be aware of, as people's perspective may not match our own, and their goals may not be in our favor. So knowing full well that we are on our journeys with our own individual perspective, it is important to maintain that perspective so that we don't falter, but stay the course and persevere. So, as I said, this has been Unsupervised Consequences, day number 37. My name is Dino the Genetic Marvel. You can follow me everywhere. And if you think that somebody would benefit from this, please feel free to share it with them, as I am happy to answer any and all questions as much as I can. I am talking to someone from. I am from Toronto. So, no problem, Marita. It's thank you very much for your support. It's greatly appreciated. And as always, I am going to be here tomorrow and discussing more stuff. So in the meantime, have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will be here tomorrow to talk about more stuff. Have a great night.